Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I'm going to be reviewing Naval Strike, the third DLC available for Battlefield 4. Now this is really the first DLC in any Battlefield game to focus on naval combat. Certainly there have been naval-oriented maps in older Battlefield games like Battlefield 1942 and whatnot, but this one certainly puts an emphasis on boat combat, jet ski combat, and even hovercraft combat. Now the big concern before this DLC came out was, what if you don't like going in boats? What if you like infantry combat? What if you like air combat? Is there going to be something for you in this DLC? And I'm happy to say that yes, this DLC actually has some of the best variety of gameplay that I've seen so far. And aside from making some truly gorgeous looking maps, possibly the best looking maps that I've seen in a Battlefield game to date, they have also implemented a brand new game mode into Battlefield 4, which actually adds a lot to the experience and is probably going to be one of the more popular game modes, I would say, in the whole Battlefield 4 game itself. And of course I'm talking about Carrier Assault, the spiritual successor to the Titan game mode from Battlefield 2142. This game mode provides an awesome mixture of gameplay, starting off with conquest at the beginning of the round until you damage the enemy team's carrier enough. Then you can board the enemy team's carrier for essentially an in-carrier game of rush, or you can defend your own carrier. So you have the option of attacking or defending your carrier, or you can even continue to play the conquest game mode on the map. Sometimes carriers are so well defended that the enemy teams cannot destroy them from the inside, so you still have to maintain conquest control of the map to hammer it down with cruise missiles. I've seen carrier game modes end in every single way so far. Sometimes you think you're gonna win, but the enemy team has rushed the other carrier just a few seconds faster than you, and all of a sudden you lose the game at the last second. There's lots of very close games, and it's a lot of fun. Playing with friends on Carrier Assault just adds a huge variety of gameplay. And speaking of which, the devs have been so conscious with the map design in this to really provide some good infantry combat. Wavebreaker, the map that has a huge submarine base in the center, has an area that's completely closed off from essentially vehicular combat. Attack boats and little birds can fly into the subbase, but they certainly aren't going to be the dominant threat, and they're very easy targets to take out if they do. So there's a massive infantry battle that rages on in the center of the map, where on the outside there's a huge vehicular battle and naval battle. The same holds true for Operation Mortar, where there's a large hill in the center of the map that has underground tunnels and treacherous paths to try and get up to the top. Once infantry are up there, they have anti-air missiles, they have tons of weaponry that can deal with air threats and stuff like that, so the infantry actually hold a really strong position in that map. Nansha Strike has an area in the center of the map where only rib boats, jet skis, and hovercraft can get to, so attack boats are really prevented from doing anything major on the interior of the map. So again, it's very infantry intensive there. Lost Islands, on the other hand, is certainly a bit more vehicle intensive, or at least vehicle friendly, than the other maps. You can certainly dominate with an attack boat on that one. Helicopters, on the other hand, have virtually no cover against infantry though, so I would say Lost Islands is probably one of my least favorite balanced maps, although visually it is one of the coolest to look at. Now surprisingly, Russia's gotten a bit of love in this expansion as well. Some of these maps are designed perfectly for Russia. I won't say all of them. Some of them have really hard to get to first MCOMs, which is what happens when you have large bodies of water and the only way to get to them is with boats. It's very easy to mount a strong defense against them. But on maps such as Operation Mortar, it's pretty clear to see that these maps were designed with the rush game mode clearly in mind. There's a very epic siege up to the top of a mountain with tons of different infantry combat areas to try and flank on. It's a really good experience, and I was surprised at how much fun I was actually having in a rush game mode in Battlefield 4, as this game type has kind of fallen by the wayside compared to other games like Battlefield 3, where rush was certainly one of the more popular game modes. Now, of course, Naval Strike is not without its flaws. Probably the biggest flaw of all is the fact that it's still running on the freaking Frostbite engine, so we have the shit-ass netcode and unfortunate rubber banding in servers. This will hopefully get fixed. I know DICE is working really hard on trying to fix the rubber banding issue, but we still have the crap netcode that has been in the game since launch. This is something that I have very little faith in DICE actually being able to fix before the end of Battlefield 4's life. So it's sort of something that we've all just kind of had to accept and look back fondly on the days of gaming where you could actually take cover behind a corner and realize that you weren't going to die 2 seconds after the fact, or remember the days where hit markers actually showed the direction where people were shooting you from. I don't know, there's still a lot of bugs that are inherent to Battlefield 4. I have a hard time blaming the Naval Strike devs for these bugs because they are sort of core game bugs. But if we are going to focus on some of the negative things about Naval Strike that are inherent to the Naval Strike DLC, I will say Carrier Assault has some interesting issues with it, such as the parachute spawn point over the enemy team's carrier once it becomes available to assault. Now, I realize the intention of this was to keep the gameplay really intense and moving. Once the carrier opens up, it facilitates non-stop infantry combat because people can just parachute into the deck. At the same time, you're parachuting onto helicopters that are the enemy team's helicopters, so you can essentially steal choppers, or you can just camp them, wait for people to spawn into the transport heli, shoot them out of the cockpit. They have these weird doors inside of the carrier that open and close, and those combined with the Battlefield netcode are just a perfect combination for terrible gunfights and just really awkward situations. The main hangar doors on the side of the carrier have some really awful invisible walls, and it's honestly one of the most popular infantry combat areas, so you're constantly shooting into invisible walls or watching enemies trying to shoot you while you're behind an invisible wall. There's a lot of weird areas for cheesy style gameplay on Carrier Assault mode once you actually get onto the carrier. Now, on one hand, it's easy to sympathize with the developers because they are trying to add a lot of new content to an expansion and a new game mode that hasn't been tried since Titan game mode in 2142. And so, of course, there's going to be a few things that go wrong with it. At the same time, you would expect them to have enough time to test out these things and try and find good solutions to them before they release it. Overall, the issues with carrier mode aren't that bad. I will again knock it though for not being as feature rich as the original Titan game mode from Battlefield 2142. Now, an area of this expansion that I think the devs did a really great job on, which wasn't necessarily expected of them, was the team deathmatch game modes. The maps actually play out really well, and they offer new game styles compared to what's already being offered with the TDM match modes and the domination game modes. Nansha Strike, for example, provides a really good TDM match or domination match for sniping. It's probably the best sniper map I've played on TDM, and that's great because some players really do just want a good environment for sniping where they don't have to worry about their flanks non-stop or vehicles hunting them down. This is a great map to do it. Then when you play on Lost Islands rather than playing in the actual tropical island area, which really doesn't have a lot of infantry cover and I was kind of concerned about initially, well, instead of playing on the islands, you're playing inside of the carrier for some really close quarter intense infantry combat, and we all like that. It's a great way to just get in the middle of the action really fast and get into some really cool flanking opportunities. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just loving the variety that they bring to it. Overall, I can say that Naval Strike is definitely my favorite DLC so far. We still have 2 to go, so hopefully DICE can actually even top Naval Strike in terms of quality, but I'm certainly enjoying this one so far, despite the small bugs. Of course, we haven't forgotten about the netcode, but I almost have to lump that into a category outside of the DLC now, as we can't really expect the DLC in itself to focus on the netcode. That's, again, a core game issue. Hopefully DICE will still continue to work on the main issues plaguing Battlefield 4. Loving Naval Strike. If you've liked the previous expansions, you will probably like this one. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.